It's no surprise that a character like Nightwing is so beloved by many. Being the pioneer for superhero sidekicks during his time as Robin, laying the foundation for the Bat family, applying Batman's teachings to become a leader of the Teen Titans, becoming one of the few heroes to stand out on their own and not be entrapped in the cycle of character regression. I mean, what's not to love? Not to mention, this man arguably has some of the most insane pull game in comic history. Like, it's absurd.
You ever see a guy this handsome walk in the streets, he's gonna get arrested because he's killing all the ladies. Look at that. Pow, 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 pow.
That being said, Nightwing has had a weird history with creatives wanting to sexualize him to such absurd degrees, making you wonder how some of these decisions even got past editorial, or placing him in situations that just make you want to question all of existence. Topple that with the obsessive nature some fans have over how attractive or lustful Dick Grayson needs to look in any medium in order to satisfy their weird fantasies or headcanons. This dude's high-key a victim.
You're a victim.
Here we go, CSI.
The first case of Nightwing being manipulated or deceived into sleeping with another woman can be seen in Marv Wolfman's run on the New Teen Titans and Team Titans back in the early 90s. A new Titans team from a future timeline travels back in time in an attempt to kill Donna Troy before she can give birth, as her son in that future becomes an all-powerful monarch who conquers the planet, born with the powers of all the Titan gods that drove him insane. A shapeshifter named Mirage was part of that team, and she used her illusion casting abilities to disguise herself as Starfire, just so she could be in a physical relationship with Dick Grayson. In her future, she was in a relationship with an older Nightwing, and used her disguise as Starfire as an opportunity. After confessing to all of this, somehow Nightwing is the one who is slut-shamed for the whole ordeal.
That ain't right. That ain't fucking right.
The most infamous example occurred during Devin Grayson's run on Nightwing, specifically in issue 93 back in 2004. Tarantula was a former FBI agent who took the mantle of the original Tarantula, John Law, in an attempt to fight crime in Bludhaven. Blockbuster had discovered Nightwing's secret identity and systematically destroyed nearly everything he cared about, blowing up Dick's apartment complex with the residents still inside, sending Tarantula to attack Barbara Gordon, and sending Firefly to burn Haley's circus. Tarantula points a gun at Blockbuster while he's fighting Nightwing, and Blockbuster gloats that he'll never stop hunting the people Nightwing cares about for as long as he's alive. Nightwing lets go of Blockbuster, allowing Tarantula to shoot and kill him. He essentially has a panic attack and goes into shock after what transpired. Tarantula uses this opportunity to force herself onto him on top of a rooftop. What's even weirder is how it's never really brought up afterwards. There's never any internal dialogue or discussion about what she did to him, nor is she held accountable. Tarantula ends up aiding the Bat family in Gotham during the War Games event a few issues later. The writer Devin Grayson had some rather interesting takes on what happened in that issue. In a 2004 interview, she essentially went, "Oh, I never said sexual assault, I just said it was just non-consensual." She would go on to apologize a couple of times in the years that followed in regard to her previous comments, acknowledging what it actually was when it came to that horror deal. The third example occurred during the 321 Days story arc, which ran in Nightwing issue 133 to 137, written by Marv Wolfman. The story flashes back to a 16 going on 17-year-old Dick Grayson, who gets into an argument with Batman and runs away for a short period. He comes across a criminal named Metal Eddie, who leads a gang called the 21 Tigers and trains them to commit crimes against authority figures. Metal Eddie's girlfriend, Liu, tried to manipulate Dick by exploiting the fact that he was Bruce Wayne's ward. She formed a relationship with him in hopes of obtaining a Wayne key card, which would allow them access to Bruce Wayne's computer and bank accounts, effectively allowing them to rob him. Once he realized their true intentions, Dick eventually put a stop to their antics and reunited with Batman. The big glaring issue with this was the fact that Liu was a full-grown adult and was sleeping with a barely 17-year-old Dick Grayson in an attempt to use him for her and Eddie's big score. On paper, I'm completely fine with the jokes relating to Nightwing's pure cheekage. I mean, the man's got some nice glutes, what more is there to say?
Damn, not us, fuck.
However, it can be taken to an extent where it becomes ridiculous and unnecessary, with the incessant need to acknowledge it in-universe rather than letting it mostly reside in fan discussions. This can be seen in comics like the Grayson series, where Dick joined the spy organization Spiral in the New 52 after faking his death. Even though Spiral agents have hypnotic tech that conceals their faces when out and about on the field, Midnighter was able to recognize Dick simply by getting a good view of his rear. As an agent of Spiral, Dick would teach 2 courses of acrobatics acrobatics at a finishing school in England that also served as a training ground for Spiral, using the cover identity of a French former Olympic gymnast. The girls were so mesmerized they gave each of his cheeks a name, the left one named Juan and the right named Jim. As recently as the Absolute Power event, you've got characters like Cheshire admiring some of Nightwing's physical features, even while getting debriefed alongside the rest of the Arrow family through a hologram. The worst offender without a doubt is DC going out of their way to publish an out-of-continuity webcomic late last year titled Nothing But Nightwing with 2 T's.
You mean Alfred the Butler with 2 T's?
The story centers on Dick going undercover as a fashion model to investigate models who have gone missing. I feel like if there's a line to be drawn on how far is too far with a joke, this would be it, right? Making an entire mobile webcomic with the marketing centered on Nightwing's cheeks? At this point, they gotta wrap it up with the butt jokes. It's over.
You ruined it. You ruined it and I'm leaving.
Given how much certain material likes to hyperfixate on Dick Grayson's appearance, it's no surprise that a subset of fans have weird takes on how Nightwing should be portrayed in live action. The emergence of the DCU is set to introduce new actors to portray the major players of the DC universe, which has propelled a buttload of fan casts. Too many if you ask me. For Nightwing, there seems to be this narrative going around that he'll be damn near impossible to cast because of how luscious and beautiful he is or whatever, demanding that the character should look a certain way.
You have to cast the sexiest, most delicious, long meat, elephant trunk dingling possessing man you know to play Nightwing. The weight of the world is on whoever has to cast Nightwing for the DCU.
The most uncastable character we have seen in any superhero film ever. Every single godforsaken fan cast I have seen for Nightwing is absolute trash. There is not a single actor alive that could play this character the way that everyone wants it to be.
-5 out of 10, because Nightwing is supposed to be really hot, and no. I'm gonna have to go 8 out of 10, because that face, that's Richard Grayson. I don't know anything about his acting, but that face card, yeah, that's Nightwing.
That man has to be overly beautiful. I'm not gonna lie, like he gotta be overly beautiful, beyond charismatic, an asshole during fight scenes.
Now sure, Dick Grayson has been acknowledged as an attractive guy countless times in universe, but the way people are losing their minds over his physical appearance is odd to me. Like, why is that the thing y'all are the most concerned about? If you've never heard of Nightwing and heard what these people are saying, you might think they're confusing this man with Satoru Gojo. The standards for most of these fan castings are incredibly superficial and lack any insight on an actor's ability to, well, act. The dismissals of potential casting choices can just be boiled down to, but he's not pretty enough for me. I find it even weirder that some people have this mindset when we've literally had a solid live action casting for Nightwing in recent years. The show might have been hot buns, but Brenton Thwaites' Dick Grayson in the live action Titans show I thought was pretty good casting, which can be said about a lot of the actors in that show, so it's quite literally been done before. Oh no, the attractive acrobatic white dude with the necessary acting chops is impossible to find, because we all know there's definitely a shortage of people like that roaming around. Writers did not spend the last 80+ years crafting Dick Grayson's history and characterization just for y'all to obsess over how hot that actor needs to be. The acting chops, Nightwing's importance to the DCU, his past traumas, the chemistry with other actors and their characters. Obviously none of that matters as long as the actor looks the part. The actor for Dick Grayson needs to be so beautiful that—
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut up!
I've also seen some people argue that Nightwing has to be played by a Romani actor or else it wouldn't be accurate to the source material. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but no, he doesn't. This has never once been an integral part of his character, and it wasn't even introduced until Devin Grayson wrote it in the mainline books in 2001. Mind you, Dick Grayson first appeared in 1940, so for the majority of Dick's publication history, his Romani heritage was never established. It's been mentioned a few times since its introduction, but most writers tend to forget or never utilize that concept, and it has never once been a defining character trait or something that's detrimental to his personality, his stories, or core relationships. The idea of Dick being of Romani descent isn't a bad thing, it's just never been meaningfully integrated into his character or narratives. In most stories, it's mentioned in passing and then they'd move on. Even if you wanted to argue its significance, He's only 1/4 Romani through his father's side. Things get even weirder when you look into why Devin Grayson incorporated Romani roots in the first place. Her reasoning stemmed from associating circus performing with Romani culture, and wanting a cultural explanation for why people would lust after Dick or feel somewhat bewitched by him. In other words, the decision-making process leaned on stereotypes surrounding that group. I'm gonna reiterate this because I know some people are gonna be really stupid about this. I don't take issue with the idea of Nightwing being Romani. I couldn't care less. The problem relies around people thinking that the actor who plays him in live action also has to have that same heritage, claiming it would be a disservice to the character if otherwise, which is completely untrue. Please tell me why the actor being Romani is a must for the DCU Nightwing casting.
I'm listening.
People are bound to convey their delusions and fantasies surrounding these fictional heroes, but it seems to really gone out of hand for Nightwing. It certainly hasn't helped with DC themselves trying to integrate some of these things into a few of the books or series being published, and they've had an even weirder history of writers placing Nightwing in uncomfortable, non-consensual situations, or in one instance, showcase outright grooming. That said, Nightwing seems to be in a good place as of right now with his prominent role in the DC universe and his ongoing solo run that's been going pretty strong. Hopefully that same love will be carried over into the DCU, but honestly, whoever they end up casting, people are gonna bitch and moan about it regardless.